Aeronautics Department transferred over to Park Hill. We've been with them and happy with their services ever since.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? No. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to award the RFQ 2024-14 to Park Hill Consulting Services. Item number 10 is the master agreement between the city of Guthrie and Park Hill. You
Yes.
still have it.
This master agreement, it outlines the general terms and expectations between the city and Park Hill. I do want to emphasize individual projects such as the full design of the terminal and construction will be authorized through separate agreements that will be attached through addendums. That will go before the airport board and the city council for further approval. This agreement also does not obligate the city to use Park Hill for every airport-related project. We talked about the Myers drainage study at the airport board meeting and at the Joint Selection Committee, and we've used Myers Engineering for that to do a study, and Park Hill has also recommended that we go ahead and retain them for when we construct a detention pond in the future, because then we're going to be starting back at square one when we could use Myers. So it doesn't lock us into Park Hill. We definitely can always go with a different engineer, but as far as just a master on-call agreement, we can pick up the phone when we have an issue, which, like I said, is weekly. They'll tell us if someone is wanting to construct a hangar that's going to have an issue next to the runway. That would be an engineer call. If we need a quick survey of a hangar, they can do that in an hour or so. They're really quick at it. And so having this on-call agreement is huge for the airport.
Okay, questions from council? Well, it's an exciting time at the airport. Obviously, with lots of things going on, the terminal as well as all kinds of expansion potential things out there. So it's a really, really great thing, and it's good to have a firm like of this nature to help us with it. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then for the master agreement between the city of Guthrie and Park Hill for professional architectural and engineering services. Item number 11, ordinance number 3422, amending the charter, chapter number 3 concerning animals. Eddie?
Yes, Mayor and Council, I will kick this off and then I will let the city attorney take this one as
He's
he
excited about it, I can tell.
he looks excited tonight. He can't contain it. I can see it in his face. So at the request of the City Council, staff has prepared an ordinance amending Chapter 3 of the Guthrie Code of Ordinances relating to animals. This ordinance repeals the existing Article 6, exotic and vicious animals, in its entirety and replaces it with the updated provisions under section and attached under sections 3-70 through 3-79A. The revised language provides clearer definitions, improved regulatory guidance, and more consistent enforcement measures. Additionally, Section 3-120 has been amended to include escalating penalties for repeated violations involving dogs running at large, as directed by council to address ongoing concerns within the community. In addition to myself and City Attorney Wheeler, Lieutenant Steve Mize is here as well from the police department if there are any questions as it relates to animal control. Be happy to turn it over to City Attorney Wheeler.
So I would say that this has been a long time coming. We started this project probably 6 years ago, and it didn't get very far, died on the vine. It's something that needs to be done. Our current ordinance is literally 2 paragraphs. It gives us no ability to remove animals, gives us no teeth. The current ordinance mirrors state law. It gives us teeth. It allows us to remove dogs. It puts consequences in place for owners who don't take care of their dogs. As has been said many times, in these conversations, dogs aren't the problem, it's dog owners are the problem. And this gives us the ability to find them, remove the animal, and hold them accountable. And I'll answer any questions. If anybody has any specific questions about it.
Questions from the council?
Billy, I did have one more. I'm sorry. Thank you for taking the time to answer my questions earlier. Under the subsection 3-79A, Good question. Sorry.
379A would be page 198 in your packet. It is the second to last page of your ordinance.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Under subsection A, where it talks about animals can be impounded, and if the animal is not reclaimed or removed from the city limits within 3 days, notice to the owner, then it can be destroyed or sold. I know that you had kind of visited with me a little bit, but I guess my concern is still like, how is that notice going to be given? Because if it's sent by mail, it can take 3 days to get there or longer, and so
So it's 3 days after they get notice. They get 3 days notice.
after they've received
Right. So we
the
can't destroy,
notice,
Are you sending it registered mail or
in
something?
the new one, we've made some corrections to it or some changes to it. So now, as I've worded a current one, I don't think you guys have seen, would be 3 days notice to the owner. Let's see. Notice shall be provided by personal service or certified mail with return receipt. If the owner cannot be located, notice may be posted at the owner's last known address. But we have to make an attempt to, if we're gonna take that kind of action, we have to make an attempt to give them actual notice.
right, I think that's totally appropriate. I guess my concern still is like, if we mail something and we don't hear from them, and then we take action, and then they got it the next day, like,
It will-
does that make sense?
It
Do you-
does,
do
but
you
we're dealing
understand my
with the animals this way, so my recommendation to animal control and law enforcement is always to try to do all of those. I mean, if we wanna post it on, we wanna do everything we can. So time is
So
money.
multiple methods of
Multiple methods, you don't wait for
notifications,
one
are
to
you
go. But time is money on this, so while we're having to have this animal, we're out the cost of veterinary care, feed, shelter. So it's in our best interest to resolve these matters as
So-
quickly as possible.
So how do we determine a dangerous animal? And who is gonna supply a $50,000 surety bond?
So that comes right out of the state, the $50,000 surety bond comes right out of the state statute. So we're mirroring what
Who
is,
provides that? I've never heard of anybody providing
I don't know where you can get it.
it. You can't.
No.
So, and something to add to that, that is also required after the municipal judge has ruled that the animal has determined the animal to be vicious or dangerous.
Well, but that's not what this says, right?
Yes, yes,
Says-
sir. Section
Says
378.
determined by animal control supervisor.
So, no, so they can start the process of removal, but before all of those things kick in, the actual determination of a vicious animal is made by the court.
Yeah, section 378, it's page 196 in your packet. Determination, the municipal judge shall be empowered to make one of the following determinations as a result of said hearing. So we're not impeding the animal control officer from doing their job.
Okay.
So,
I get it.
for example, say we get a call.
That's fine,
for-
I get it.
Okay, you're good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Any other questions from the council?
I think this is very much needed. I appreciate City Hall's speed on putting this together. We had an incident a few weeks ago that kind of broke the camel's back to do this. So City Hall acted pretty quick, though, in doing this. So thank you, Eddie, staff, for doing that.
Okay.
I would like to add, because I was involved in those conversations as well with the city manager. Real Talk Around Guthrie is not an official report. Like, people need to call
Yeah, that's right.
dispatch and, you know, I mean, and talk to dispatch because, you know, the police department doesn't monitor Real Talk Around Guthrie 24/7. And so, but they do monitor the phone line. I know nobody wants to pick up a phone and actually make a phone call anymore, but if you have problems with dogs running around and killing your cat or your chickens or whatever, you know, you need to call the dispatch.
That goes for any department.
That's right. We welcome phone calls and emails. We're happy to discuss anything at any time, so.
Much more effective than social media.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments from the council?
So moved. Make a motion.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I would ask that that motion be to include the updated version of this with a couple corrections that were.
Okay.
What's the updated version, Billy?
So let me tell you quick.
I thought you had already said, is there a motion?
Well, and I'll outline. So the vicious animal, the definition of vicious animal in your version, there's 4 parts of it. It's unclear whether it had to meet all of them or one of them. So we clarified that they have to meet one criteria of those. There's an inconsistency on a concrete footing, which is from the state statute, that we need the footing to be 2 feet deep. There's, I think, 3 references to that, and they didn't mirror the language the same, so those have been corrected to mirror that. And then we clarified the notice, as Councilwoman Mills has just discussed, we clarified the notice to be personal service or certified mail. So those are the clarifications that are on there. And there was one reference to a 330A, which didn't exist, it should have been a B1. So that was just a clerical error. But those are it's identical to what you have with those exceptions.
But the fines are what we used to have, aren't they? That didn't change, I don't think, did it?
No, it's an escalating fine.
No, I know, but I think that we had that in place.
I think the fine of 500,
Was in place originally, wasn't it?
I don't think that is what we've been using. The original ordinance is very vague on vicious animals.
Okay.
So the motion will include the updated version as
Yes.
identified by
With the city attorney, yes.
And the second, who had the second? Second accepts that? Okay, any other discussion?
Nope.
Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then to accept the amended ordinance number 3342, chapter 16, with the updated version as identified by the city attorney.
Mayor, if you could clarify, ordinance number 3422. 3342 is the next item.
I'm sorry, let me clarify that. We're approving ordinance number 3422, chapter 3.
Yes, sir.
As updated by the city attorney. Thank you. Item number 12, ordinance number 3342, amending chapter 16, planning and zoning. Dan, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mayor. City Council, for once, I am going to be brief. This item was discussed at the April 1st City Council meeting. There was no major concerns or changes that were requested. I did do an amended preface to the zoning code just so it helps to understand that there are avenues in the code if there is for appeals and other things, so it doesn't necessarily come across as it being set in stone. So with that, I'll give it back to the council. It would be a recommendation to adopt the ordinance number 3342, which would again adopt the updated zoning code.
So in our last meeting, I wanted to push this out there so that everybody had time to review and look at it. I haven't been able to reach everybody today to find out if everybody has on council. So I'd like to go around and make sure everybody has had ample time to look at it. I would think that they would by now, as well as the public. So,
How many hours did you actually spend on this?
Honestly, I don't know. It took me about a year. I mean, to develop it from the very beginning, because literally had to redo the entire code. So yeah, it took about a year. Yeah, because unfortunately I had a couple other things I had to do, you know, along the way, so.
I make the motion to approve this.
We have 3 individuals from the public that would like to speak on this issue. Mr. Ingram?
Is this open meeting or is this going to?
No, this is not open meeting.
Hello, Mayor and Council. I was a Realtor for 33 years in my former line of work, and I know how important that zoning and updated zoning is. And Dan is doing a phenomenal job, in my opinion, of bringing Guthrie up to date. I am all for this, and I hope you are too. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ingram. Mr. Morris?
Slower these days.
It's all right. Take your time. Please identify yourself, please.
Yeah, my name is Elijah Morris.
And you are a citizen of Guthrie.
Yes, I live here in Guthrie. And I'm a builder and a developer here in town, and I've done a lot of building and remodeling and stuff, and worked with Dan quite a bit over the years, and I know how hard he's worked on this. And I, as a builder and a developer, I know how good this is going to be for the city and just moving us forward, kind of into the next, phase of just development and things like that. And so I would, highly recommend that this be approved. I don't see anything in it that, is going to, be detrimental in any way. So I'd recommend you all approve it.
Thank you, Mr. Morris. Appreciate that input. Mr. Long?
My name is James Long. I live at 512 East Washington here in Guthrie, and I'm just echoing the other two. So I just want to appreciate how much work Dan has put into this. This has been a can that's been kicked for a long time, so I'm glad to finally see it come to fruition, and I appreciate all the hard work that he and many other people have put into it. So working with people every day in real estate, having updated code is important. So I think that this will be a good thing for Guthrie.
Thank you. Really appreciate those comments. And Dan and a lot of other folks, you're right, all three of you. A lot of people put a lot of work in this. I think this brings us into currency, so it's a good thing. Okay, now
There should be one more.
I'm sorry?
There should be one more. Terry Kleinfelter.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Yep, Terry? Kleinfelder? Kleinfelder?
Just wanted to take a moment and say I appreciate the direction the city of Guthrie's going. I relocated my family up from Edmond because of all the changes in the direction the city's going. And I appreciate something that I don't know was talked about last time, but the ability to have smaller homes, which are appropriate for young couples starting out, is something that was very not available in Edmond. And I'm glad to see it on the horizon here for Guthrie. So,
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Great. Appreciate your comments. Thank you very much.
So with that, I'll make a second.
Well, hold on. I just wanted to thank Dan for all of your work on this, and I know we've gone back and forth a lot on various provisions in here, so I appreciate your willingness to dialogue with me extensively on all of that, and answer questions and address concerns and things like that. So I know you've put a lot of work into this, and I'm excited to see it finally moving forward. I think it will be great for our community. So I have had time to review it, and I feel confident in moving forward with this, so thank you for that. The only sticking point I had that Dan and I could not come to an agreement on, which I'm sure seems minor, but to me it's something that I think we need to look at for a moment. Under Article 5,
It's under signs.
subsection
Yeah.
14.5 under signs, it's page 345 in your packet. Under political signs, I'm sure all of us up here are familiar with that world. The very first point under there says duration, and it says political signs have to be removed 5 days after the election, but it says political signs cannot be placed more than 60 days in advance of an election. And I know that statewide campaigns, people often start knocking doors far earlier than that. And so I think this 60 days is not a realistic number. If you wait till 2 months before the election to start putting signs out, you're already way behind the curve. So I discussed with Dan, I would like to see a longer period of time on that. I just think that's realistic. I routinely see signs out earlier than 2 months, so that was the only.
Do you have a suggestion for what the time frame would be?
Well,
Indefinite.
state campaigns, no, I don't. I do not want campaign signs out all the time, believe me.
Kind of narrowed down.
Yeah. State campaigns, people start knocking doors a year in advance.
So let's talk about that. Knocking doors and putting a sign in your yard in the neighborhood is one thing,
Right.
but putting signs up on state highways is a totally different issue.
Right. I didn't see that this differentiates it just simply states signs cannot be placed more than 60 days prior.
Yeah, you're
So
correct.
we
Any
need to
political sign.
differentiate
Yeah.
that.
Because in the past, we just kind of turned a blind eye as a city to that.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I will say, you know, as Councilwoman Mills had indicated, we had talked, I just didn't feel comfortable putting a specific time frame in there without the council addressing it or considering it. So from a staff perspective, I have no issue if it's 90 days, 120 days. I just wanted to make sure that the council as a whole was in agreement with that change because it didn't come up previously.
Well, and there's nothing restricting somebody going and knocking on doors and answering
right.
that question, nothing there.
Yeah.
So that can happen earlier, it's just that the signage can't go up more than, what's being proposed, more than 60
Just
days. I personally think that 60 days is sufficient.
I don't know that any of us put them up more than 60, did we?
I didn't put up signs.
I did. I did, and I think 60 days is fine. I think, you know, sometimes when we get signs put up for a really, really long duration, we're not seeing them anyway. They're there. They become a part of the background, of the noise. I think 60 days is sufficient, personally.
I'd be willing to do 90 as
Me
a
too. I was getting ready
compromise.
to say that as well. 90 would be good. What do you think of that?
Yeah,
I'm not sure that you don't have a First Amendment issue on this. I mean,
Well, let's let
political
city attorney
speech, political
discuss
speech
that.
has the highest level, I mean, it triggers what's called strict scrutiny. I taught constitutional law for 15 years. It triggers strict scrutiny, and you can have reasonable time, place, and manner restrictions, but the courts are very, with regard to political signage, very reluctant to uphold anything that restricts political speech. That's the pinnacle of First Amendment protection in this country. So I don't have a problem with it, but just recognize that, you know, you could wind up in court over this, and I think we're going to lose.
Attorney?
No, I don't disagree with that at all. So our signs can't be, they have to be the rules have to be content neutral. We can't have specific language in there that discriminates against those signs, political or non-political. And I think that is correct. So I think that we can have this in the ordinance. I don't think we have any problem. I don't think the ordinance has a legality issue in that way. But I do think that that we are very strictly trying to enforce on political signs. If we're picking up and removing political signs, we're going to have a potential issue.
And I think something we have to consider from a staff perspective as well is there's a whole lot of stuff in the ordinance. And we have to take each code case on a case-by-case basis, and we look at each case on its merits. You know, if there's signs, for most planning directors, is the bane of their existence. And I can
Yes.
tell you that, having been a former city planner, I've had that experience. And I can tell you, every municipality in Oklahoma has a provision in their zoning code about political signs. Whether or not it's enforced is a totally separate issue. Finding a compromise here on the timeline, I think, is a good way. If it's 90 days, if it's 6 months, whatever the compromise is there, knowing that if we ever have to defend any such action, which could be applicable to everything we do here, we know going into it that we've got to handle that case with that understanding.
Well, let's look at our official legal opinion by Councilman Aguirre that states that we can't do it. And I understand what you're saying. You've taught that.
I mean,
Okay,
I'm not
but-
giving
so-
a legal opinion for the city. I am just
Well,
telling you.
that's what it sounded like to me.
A
But at the end,
constitutional-
that's what it sounded like to me, and then Billy jumped right on board with you. So it seems to me like you gave the legal opinion, and then you concurred. But you were gonna let us vote on it anyway. So I got an issue with that, but we'll talk about that another day. So in this particular case right here, why do we even have it? They have to sign up by December 2nd or whatever it is. Let them run with them.
So, Councilman Bothroyd, my main concern with this, the reason why I brought it up, is because I think that people are going to put out signs earlier than that. And if
I don't think they
If
can put out the
we're-
signs prior to
if
them going.
if this is overly restrictive, my concern is it's just gonna put more burden on the staff because they're having to enforce something that's overly restrictive to begin with.
I guess you didn't hear what I said.
So-
What I said was, when you sign up for whether it's council or state rep or anything else, put your signs out, if that's what you want to do, up until the 5 days after the election. That's what I said. That's where
You
I was
mean,
going.
so you were going with filing period?
I'm going with filing period.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to put your signs up prior to the filing period, I wouldn't think, because you're not going to have a leg to stand on if the city pulled them down, because you haven't filed. You just got signs laying everywhere. So it has to be at least the filing period forward.
That makes sense to me.
So
That's fine.
there you have it.
I don't think
But-
Dan's gonna die on the hill of signage, of political signs.
Because that's pretty much, that's how.
I can
that's
tell
how-
you with certainty that is a correct statement.
But that's how it's been in this community,
Yeah,
period.
no, you're not wrong.
So
Absolutely.
let's just not change that.
Yeah, and, or we can change the verbiage to say that, that's not
Well-
a problem.
So
Alright.
indefinite, unlimited.
Or as
So the-
Councilman Bothroyd had said, that once you put in your, basically your papers are filed, then you can start putting up political signs or candidacy signs.
But that's crazy to do, but if they want
Yeah.
to do it, let them.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What do you think of that?
So is there amendment to the document?
Oh, yeah.
That somebody would like to make?
I'm gonna make an amendment that we change it from 60 days to the date of filing till 5 days after the election.
That's your motion.
That's my motion.
Okay.
So you move approval of
Of the-
the ordinance number 3342, amending chapter 16, planning and zoning as amended to reflect the change in from filing
Through.
date through 5 days after.
Correct.
Right.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? So what we're voting on is the amendment from filing date until 5 days after the election. Is that clear with everybody?
Yep.
Submit your votes.
All votes are in.
See the votes. Unanimous approval then with the ordinance number 3342 as amended to reflect that signs can go up from filing date to 5 days after the
No,
election.
but that's part of the zoning code that I've got a second on and Jeff has a motion on. Okay, so she can't make a second on a zoning code that we've already got a motion and a second on.
So you amended your motion, is that what?
I amended my second
Right. And I amended
to
the
reflect that.
Okay.
motion. Right.
Okay.
Okay.
But again, our attorneys should have known that.
I think we voted on the ordinance as amended with your suggestion, Brian.
Okay,
That's how I took it.
all right.
I think that's what we all
As
voted
long
on.
as that's what we
why I
done,
tried-
'cause Jeff
That's
put the
why I
fir-
tried to clarify it before we
Okay,
voted.
well,
Excuse
typic-
me, just a minute.
Okay,
That's why I tried to clarify it.
Okay.
So I think we're all on the same page.
okay,
All right, good, thank you.
as long as we are.
We are. I guarantee it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you,
Oh, you're
Dan.
not-
Dan,
Oh, yeah, I guess you are.
never ends with Dan on this city code.
He's trying to run.
Okay, item number 13, Ward 1 City Council position. This is an issue that's going to be happening, not an issue, but a process that's going to be happening, that with Mayor-elect Ropp being elected as mayor, he gives up his ward seat. Then the council has to decide how to select the person to fill that ward vacancy. We've had this happen a number of times over the last, 10 years that I've been involved. Have handled it differently, a little bit differently at sometimes. And the question is, since this is going to be happening quickly, what kind of process do you, the council, want to follow in selecting the person that will take Adam's
I'd like
place
to go
as
back to
councilman?
what we did before, which was we bring in the council members and let them interview them in private.
But I would like to do one step further, because we have done that multiple times where we had a 3-team committee do it. We changed it last time because you wanted to be involved in it,
We
and so.
had a three-person, so that we
had
didn't have a
three-
quorum.
We had a three-person team, one from each ward, that would interview that person. If we had two three-people teams that interviewed these people, then there'd be more consensus, I think, going into council, that the candidate that we're choosing is the right candidate.
I have a question
That's all.
for the city.
Versus public.
I have a question for the city attorney.
Go ahead.
So the ordinance says if a vacancy occurs, the council goes through this process. Well, currently, there is no vacancy
Exactly.
at this moment. So can we even have this discussion right now? And if the council votes on something while there's no vacancy, is that even valid moving forward?
Yeah, because you're voting on a policy. So it's a policy for the next time this happens.
Okay.
So there's no problem discussing that tonight, there's no problem coming up with a plan. It won't kick in until there's a vacancy, until this body declares that there's a vacancy.
This is just how we want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're
But
just setting
is
up.
this only in place for the next time this happens, or is this in place in continuum until something is changed by?
It's gonna be in place, it's gonna be our policy until the next time we change it.
Okay.
The reality is, we've had this conversation every time we have a declared vacancy.
And the only time we've changed it was in bringing you on. Otherwise, it was the same process.
So I understand the importance of moving forward and filling a vacancy on the council so that the council can continue to conduct business. And, I realize that's important for city staff to be able to do that. I personally believe it would be more appropriate to wait until the new Ward 1 council member takes her seat and she can have a say in the process to nominate and seat the next Ward 1 council member, since that is her ward. I obviously am not gonna be up here when you all go through that process, so I think it would be more appropriate for her to be able to be involved in that conversation, so she has a say in the process to nominate and appoint the other member from her ward.
Okay.
One of the things that we've discussed in the past is the potential of going into executive session for this process. As I read the reasons for going into executive session, it seems to me that this, in fact, could be one of the reasons to go into executive session in order to select another official.
I've always had a different opinion on that. I've seen arguments made both ways on that, but it's about an individual position. So if we're talking about a person, an employee of the city, we cannot talk about it in open session.
Correct.
But at this point in time, we don't have somebody. We're trying to interview, we're trying to determine who we have. So my opinion on that, and this has come up multiple times when we've had these conversations, but my opinion on that, a strict reading of that, I do not believe that interviewing council members is appropriate in executive session.
You said is not or is?
Not.
It's not. But the language that I'm reading here is to specifically state, it says executive sessions for public bodies will be permitted only for the only for the purposes of, and number one, there are 9 different reasons to go into executive session. But number one is discussing the employment, hiring, appointment, promotion, demotion, disciplining, or resignation of any individual salaried public officer or employee. My interpretation is that the city council person becomes a public officer.
They do.
And they're salaried, we have, I got it right here. We're salaried. So it would seem to me that the language does allow for this process to go into executive session.
Again, I think there's a difference between the hiring decision that you guys make as a body versus bringing them in and interviewing them. And again, I will admit, I've seen arguments on this on both sides.
But I think
My job is to try to keep us in the best legal position we can.
Yep.
And I think that there's some ambiguity in that, and I don't think it's the best policy to interview council members in executive session.
Okay?
My concern with that as a lawyer is that no court is gonna hold that $1 a year is a salary position. Because salary has very, non-exempt versus exempt employees have very specific definitions under the law. And they're never, that's an honorarium, it's a volunteer position. My position is that you can't go into executive session to hire a council person because they're not an employee of the city. And, I mean, you can do what you want. I'm not gonna risk my law license, which is what I've said before, to, I'm not gonna risk it. Is it a minimal risk? I don't know. If you
I think the only issue we have here, in the past, we've had a 3-person committee, non-quorum, 1 from each ward, interview the candidates, and if they had 100% mutual agreement on it, just like with Grant, then we brought that person forward. That's what we did. And then the council, we talked to the council about it. I talked to him individually. I don't know if the others did. And then, about the candidate, and then we voted on the candidate. So that, in its own right, versus doing the public interview, which I thought was a disaster last time, okay, it makes more sense to do that. Now, if there's issue that everybody wants to be involved, you could have 2-3 teams. You could have 3 from each ward, including Moneca, okay, that interview the candidates, and then council can go into executive session and discuss it and say, here's what I thought. Because I don't think it's right to discuss your resume publicly. Okay, I just don't. Okay, you don't give your resume when you're out there being a candidate. You go have conversation with your constituents. You don't throw your resume out there publicly. You should, but you don't. So that is it's either that process or the public process. So, I mean, is there a problem going to executive session for 2 teams of 3 to discuss the candidates at that point?
I think it's different. I think the hiring process, much like hiring a city manager, I think you're okay with that. I'm concerned with the process of bringing them in.
Yeah, no,
So you're differentiating between interviewing and
Correct.
discussion of the candidate. You're saying if you're interviewing, you don't feel comfortable with it, but discussing the candidates, you feel more comfortable with.
I still think that what has always been done here is a 3-team, that comes back to council. And council at that point has a conversation, and that conversation is open, it's public, as who is gonna be the best fit to serve.
Well,
And I don't know that there's a benefit to having that conversation. We're not talking about qualifications, dirty laundry, but the qualifications to serve, and I don't know that there's any purpose of that conversation being behind closed doors.
Well, I don't know either. All I'm saying is if you had 2 teams of 3, then everybody participates in who the candidate that's being brought forward
And I have
is.
no issue with that, and then I think you have a motion made here at the Horseshoe, a discussion and a vote. I don't think at that point it needs to be in an executive session.
I don't know what it does either. I think that each team could talk individually at that point. Not collectively, but individually.
As long as you come back in here, have a meeting, an open session, have a meeting, have a discussion that you have on every other issue, there's no issue.
I do like the idea of everybody getting to interview instead of just 3.
So in other words, and I'm just throwing this out there, if it were me, Adam, and Tracy, and Jeff, Grant, and Moneca as 2 teams, or split up however you want, 1 from each ward, then, and I say from that ward, even though you'll be mayor at that point, but there's only 6 of us. So.
There's also nothing stopping each individual member to reaching out and having one-on-one
That's what
conversations with
that's
people
what I
as
said.
well. So it doesn't have to be 3 and 3, it can be any.
No, you can have, I can reach out to Adam, for example, and say, hey, we interviewed
Right.
Grant, and I thought he was a good candidate for this position. Here's why I think that. But there are also 2 other candidates. What did you feel? You know, you had candidates that you looked at.
But I'm also saying there's nothing stopping you individually from meeting with a potential candidate. Interviewing on your own if you wanted to. It doesn't have
I
to
get
be
that.
3 and 3.
I get that. But if we put a policy together where it's gonna be 3 and 3, and we put an application process out, then you shouldn't be going and interviewing one-on-one when a team of 3 is gonna interview you for the position. That's all.
What's your pleasure?
Having been on that team that brought Vice Mayor Gary on, I didn't like the process because it puts a lot of responsibility on me that you're gonna take my word for putting somebody in that seat, and you haven't had a chance to hear them or interview them. It's a big responsibility, and it could go unbiasedly towards a slant of somebody's opinion or affiliations or communications or relationship to a person. It was a big trust, I thought, and I was brand new on the council. So Brian was there, James Long was there, but I still didn't like the process the way it was. I accepted it because that's the way it was. But I would rather everybody had heard the same that I heard.
Through the 3
Somehow,
cameras, yeah.
I would prefer everybody had a decision.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I brought up having 2 teams
I
of
don't know
3.
what that looks like, but I really did, I felt uncomfortable just 3 of us making that decision.
So there's a couple issues that I'm hearing. One is wait till the new councilwoman is
And I don't disagree with
appointed. And then the other one is 2 groups of 3, and then the only person that isn't engaged directly, but can be engaged individually, is of course the mayor.
No, because you could have.
He'll be
3.
involved because he'll be one of
If you
the
have a
3.
vacancy, you only have 6 members.
No, I'm sorry.
That's
You're
why I-
right.
that's why I
Yep,
said
I'm
2
sorry.
teams of
I'm
3.
sorry, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely correct. Okay, so then all the 6 seated members of the council at that point would all be engaged.
And I
in
think
2
that
groups.
handles your issue of responsibility because everybody's had the chance to interview.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's hurt, everybody's made their own.
And then we get together collectively or in executive session or whatever and hash it out and decide who we bring forward. I don't know that we want to do that publicly, but again, that's up to city attorney.
Well, doesn't matter to me as long as everybody gets a say.
I'm talking about if there's,
Yeah.
in other words, if 3 say, yeah, this guy or this gal, and 3 are going, no, you're crazy, it's this guy or this gal,
I guess we'll cross
then
that
do we
bridge
want to
when we
have
get
that conversation publicly?
there. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Or do you want to have it in executive session, which, from what Steve read, allows us to do?
I would think you would want to have it in an executive
I
session.
would too.
I think that would be
I would too.
appropriate for
I
the
think it would save-
individuals, all the individuals involved.
The question that came up before was the individual themselves. I mean, it could be challenging, embarrassing, or something like that.
Sure, absolutely.
And we don't want that.
No, absolutely, we don't. We don't want to embarrass anybody.
I mean, if everybody agreed, and you knew everybody agreed, then that's one thing. There's not an issue. Okay?
Well, do you want?
Well, you can't know that until you have a session.
Well, you
of some
can,
kind.
they can talk to City Hall. You could know. Eddie could know if there's a consensus to bring a certain person forward out of both groups, I would think.
Just tell me how that works.
Wouldn't he, Billy?
How you
Or
want
does
it.
it?
It's a fine line on that. You don't want to take any polling before
Okay.
you go into a meeting. So that's.
There will be no polling of the
That
council.
doesn't work.
On record, there
So
will
you
be
go to
no polling.
executive session then.
Just
Like
did. Do you
clarification.
have something else that you wanted to say?
Couple things. I think for clarification tonight, we recognize that Mayor-elect Rob will be the mayor. We will have a vacancy. And I think part of the reason behind putting this item now is to streamline the appointment process. So if we could identify, if you want to have 2 teams of 3 to do interviews, city attorney says that's okay, then we'll be happy to schedule those and coordinate those. I think one other thing that's important is setting some timelines. So how long do we want to have the application process open? Is it 7 days, 10 days, 30 days, whatever that is? And then from there, we can open the application process, make sure that everybody gets a copy when those come in, just as we did last time, and then schedule, if it is in the 2 teams of 3, we can schedule those separate interviews from there. And then you've got each group, everybody will have access to all the applications, and you'll each have your own, obviously your own interview process and how that goes. But we'd be happy to coordinate what we can, but there will be no polling.
So how much time did we give before when we put the apps out?
That's a great question.
I think it was 2 weeks or 10 days.
I believe it was 7 days was the last time that the application period was open. I don't know that at this point that it needs to be that, it could be as slim or as broad as you'd like. If 7 days is ideal, if 14 days is ideal.
When does the swearing in happen? May 2nd?
May 6th.
May 6th?
Yes, sir.
So if we put the application out May 6th for 5 business days,
Well, we put it out
Or
May
7th.
7th because we would declare a vacancy on the 6th.
7th,
Yeah,
so
May
you put it out
7th.
6th. Yeah.
That's what it was.
And I think you could, city attorney, you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think you could open the application process and receive applications and tomorrow, if that was the direction of the city council.
But we wouldn't want to do that because one of the council members that's going to be on one of the teams won't get sworn in until the 6th.
We can wait on interview scheduling until after
You can do
that.
the application process, but not the interview process.
And that works. We know we're gonna have a vacancy, so I don't
Yeah.
think that when we,
I think if we were to wait until after May 6th, that would negate the point of talking about it and taking action tonight.
The only problem I would have with a longer period of time by opening it now would be, back to the discussion earlier, is talk around Guthrie.
Yeah, I don't like that
We
either.
need to get 15 days for people to give all their opinions?
No.
Or, I don't think so. So I think we should close that window as short
What's
as
the-
possible.
What's the harm in doing it on the 7th for a week? I mean, I don't know that we're in that much of a rush.
It's your timeline, so whatever you'd like to set, staff is willing to accommodate.
I think anybody's been paying attention, and rightfully so, if we want them on the council, already knows there's an opening coming. So they should be prepared to apply for it if they so choose. So I think there should be a short window of time.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
Well, a week, I mean, that's
Yeah.
short.
Yeah,
7 days.
I would agree with that.
7 days.
I was thinking 5 business days, but whatever.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, I mean, it's what you want. Staff would like to have some direction on how you want to do this. It's sounding to
I
me
make a motion 5
like you.
business days.
Pardon?
Motion to 5 business days.
With 2 teams of 3?
Well, do we want to
That's what we're gonna talk
Figure out
about.
that maybe next.
Do we want to heed what Councilwoman Mills had suggested, where we don't vote tonight and we vote on how to do it when Mineka is here?
I think we vote on how to do it, but we include Mineka in the entire process. We don't choose who's on. If we're gonna do 2 teams of 3, we don't choose those till she's here and sworn in.
I don't have a problem waiting in a hurry either, so I'm neutral there, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, or either way, but if we're gonna do it, I don't think we choose the 2 teams of 3 until she's here, is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Well, he's just
In other
gonna-
words,
he's
we're not gonna
making-
say it's Jeff, Tracy, and Mineka
Right.
until she's here.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
He's just making a motion on the 5 days, is it 5 business days?
Right. I think
That's all he's
what
making a motion on.
what Kaylee was saying was that what we're deciding right now, you would have liked her to have been in that process, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's her ward.
so I think that staff has got enough guidance from this conversation to put together a plan that could be approved at that May 6th meeting.
Yeah, so
Certainly.
that's what I'm saying, so there you go.
Certainly could. I will also add, though, what we're discussing tonight in terms of, it sounds like we're ruling out executive session. I mean, we're not setting that interview process in cement, right?
No.
I understand that correctly. Okay. So we're waiting until the May 6th to vote on this. Is that the consensus? Because you've got a motion that would need to be.
That's what I'm hearing.
So the motion would need, you need to pull that back. You need to pull that motion back.
Who made the motion?
Tracy.
That's a motion to the number of days.
Yeah, but we're gonna do all that on May 6th.
Okay.
So will you withdraw the motion?
Yes, I withdraw them.
Okay, all right.
Good job.
So,
But that was the reason to do it tonight, was to push the
all
application
right, all right,
process out.
so no action taken at this time.
Correct.
Staff has guidance to make it as an agenda item on the next city council agenda. Good?
There you go.
So no application process up until after May 6th.
Yeah, that's
Right.
part of this whole deal.
Right.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay, all right, city manager report.
Yes, Mayor and Council, it's been a busy couple of weeks here in Guthrie. As you know, we just wrapped up 89ers week. So the parade on Saturday, the weather wasn't all that great, although as we were walking and most of the time running and jogging, handing out candy, I did find out the driver of the float didn't make a difference in the running or the jogging as I was running and jogging this year. It was well attended. 89ers we had good turnout, good events. So thank the committee and the whole community for coming together for that event. That's a huge event for us. We've got several events, of course, during this time that are key this time of year. April 10th, we had our first ever Guthrie at the Capitol Day. Thank you to Mayor-elect Robb, Councilwoman-elect Gibbs for being there. Large turnout. Mayor Gentling was there as well. Large turnout for our first ever day at the Capitol. So we've already reserved the date for next year, and we look forward to growing that event and having a larger turnout. On April 2nd, myself and Caden attended the Aviation Day at the Capitol. Want to brag on Caden for a moment as he was there representing his colleagues in the Oklahoma OAOA. There's too many acronyms, so I write them down. I try to keep track. Caden representing OAOA as their vice president. Is that correct? Yes. So your airport director is very active in the state in the aviation industry, and we appreciate that as that keeps us on the forefront on all things aviation related. Tuesday, April 1, Oklahoma Film and Music Office hosted Film and Music Day at the Capitol. Ran into Mayor-elect Roth there as well. We shared a booth with Meridian Technology Center. Also want to point out and thank, I've done this numerous times, but I want to thank our first responders again for the wildfire response. The interlocal agreement that you approved and pointed out because of that interlocal agreement. Our partnerships countywide are important when we're making those responses to ensure that we have adequate resources and support team for everybody involved. So thank you to those who responded and took care of those wildfires. Would also like to say thank you to Logan County Farm Bureau and Companion Healthcare for organizing and hosting a cookout to honor and thank the first responders that took place on April 10th. It was the evening of the Guthrie at the Capitol Day at Mineral Wells Park. Thursday, April 17th, the ceremony was held at Mineral Wells Park to remember those who perished in the Murrah bombing, the 30th year tribute memorial at Mineral Wells Park. Congresswoman Bice was the keynote speaker. The event was well attended. It was a little warm for an April day. Didn't have that same weather for the parade on Saturday, but it was a nice event. Do have some exciting news about the 2026 Renaissance Festival. Staff met with the event coordinator, event host, the man behind the magic, John Pagonis, and we have solidified that the 2026 festival will take place over 2 weekends down in the Cottonwood Flats. So we continue to see growth at that festival, have lots of attendance out there. Thousands of folks came out this year. We look forward to seeing that grow next year. As you've noticed, I'm sure the East Side Water Tower is complete and the West Side Water Tower is currently being sandblasted. You saw the apron around the top of the West Side Water Tower. They are making some repairs to the roof and to the structure itself as they sandblast and prepare for paint. Last thing I have for you is that Mayor Gentling's retirement Celebration will take place Tuesday, April 29th from 4 to 6 p.m. at Meridian Technology Center. With that, Mayor, that's all I've got.
Okay, thank you very much. Comments from City Council. Vice Mayor Geary.
I just want to take the opportunity to thank you for your years of service to the city in the center seat. It's a tough job, I know, to marshal 7 unique personalities and get through a meeting in record-breaking time, but you managed to do it. So congratulations, and I hope that you will enjoy your second retirement or third retirement. I don't know what this is for you. Third retirement. So I know you only get paid $1 a year, but there's a lot of hours that have gone into that over the 10 years that you've served. So I appreciate that. Also, congratulations to Mayor-elect Ropp on getting his film landed at one of the largest film festivals, the Tribeca Film Festival, for his movie Sovereign, which I am eagerly awaiting it coming out. So I'm looking forward to that. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mayor-elect Ropp.
I would like to also kind of piggyback on what the Vice Mayor said, and I've thankfully to Kim Biggs. She helped me look up a lot of history on the role of mayor in Guthrie, and I got a list of all the mayors that we've ever had, and I've been looking up their histories and stuff like that. It's been really fascinating, and so I wanted to thank her first. I'm going to do that again on May 6th, but. Our shortest serving mayor was the very first for 8 weeks, and our longest serving mayor is this gentleman right here. So both ends there, we've got it, the first and the most recent. So 10 years is a good long while, and I heard this on the street a few months ago. Somebody was talking about our mayor here, and they said, and this was just a random comment, and I said, he'll probably like to hear that, and they said, we're thankful to have a mayor that doesn't embarrass us. And I was like, so there you go. Random person, random citizen. I don't know who said it. So anyways, but thank you for your 10 years, Mayor Gatling. Yep.
Thank you.
And I've never spent so much time in my life at the state capitol, but I was honored and happy to do it representing Guthrie. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilman Bothroyd.
I would like to congratulate you for your tenure as well.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Adam, on multiple fronts.
Thank you.
You'll have that center seat here before long and be in New York.
Yeah.
So, I love New York. It's a great.
I've never been. So.
Oh, you've never been?
No, it'll be my first one.
I grew up in upstate New York, so it was.
I thought you were in New Jersey, and I'm not joking, but I'm wrong.
New York. And so you're gonna love it.
Okay, cool.
But the agreement that we put together with the county and the city, I think, is critical, and I really commend you guys for that. And I wish Hager was here, but he's obviously not. But that's a good job on that, and Dan, you as well. That's it for me.
Councilman Taylor.
Gosh, how do I feel? Guys, appreciate everything that all of you have done. It's staff. Dan kept it under 5 minutes too. I appreciate that. Mayor, I appreciate you serving with me. 12 years for me and 10 for you. That's pretty good. And I think Adam will do a good job here.
Thank you.
He'll fill in for you. So
Thank you.
That's it.
Councilwoman Mills.
Yes, I would like to start off by thanking all of my fellow council members for your commitment to this community and all of the effort and time that you guys put into serving in the way that you do. I appreciate the opportunity to serve alongside of you guys for this short season, and it's been a pleasure and an honor. So I just wanted to commend you all for the work that you do. There's a lot of it that goes unseen. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for all of your service and just the way that you represent this community and the way that you pull this community together. And I've really enjoyed watching you lead. And so I just want to thank you for all of that. And also want to thank our city staff. I know that public service can be uniquely challenging. And I appreciate all of the hours you guys put in that is probably mostly unnoticed. But I think it's very valuable, and so I appreciate all that you guys have done for me in this position, taking time for me, answering questions, and I've enjoyed working with each one of you, even Dan. So just wanted to commend you all and say thank you for your hard work and keep up the good work. I feel like there's a lot of momentum in Guthrie right now, and there's a lot of great things happening, and that really is a testament to you guys and your work you do day in and day out. And I just also want to thank the citizens of Guthrie for allowing me to serve in this position and for all of your input that you've given me. It's really been a pleasure to serve in this capacity and be able to take my background in government and use it to serve my own community, and I've really enjoyed that. So thank you all.
Councilman Williams?
To all the kind and hopeful words, I concur.
Thank you, Kaylee. Appreciate you.
Well, I am finishing up 10 years. 2015, I started this wonderful journey, and I have worked with 5 city managers.
Is that not many?
Well, one was interim, but 4 and then one interim. Actually with Kim, Kim being also an interim, 2 city attorneys, and 15 councilmen and councilwomen. And it's been an honor and privilege. It really has. It's been a unique experience. You know, sometimes as we see things happening, we don't realize the impact that we make in our community. And when I say we, I'm talking we, because it is Team Guthrie. Last night I was jotting down just some things that have happened in the last 10 years. So of course we got the big sales tax increase. We had that extended. I mean, huge. We had the biggest single commitment of money in the wastewater treatment, the $20 million that the city has ever made, happened in our tenure. And we've done that. We've splash pads, tennis courts, basketball courts, walking trails,
Frisbee golf.
moving dirt, disc golf, moving dirt on youth sports complex. Over 100 dilapidated buildings in our community that we have either taken down or have facilitated the restoration of. I mean, that is things that we are proud of, and I'm glad that I'm on a team that has made that happen. And the expansion enhancements of the viaduct happened a while ago, but it was on most of our watch. It was a good thing. Sidewalks that have been expanded. The annual putting into the budget, annual overlay for streets. Now, is it enough? No, but it's what we've got, and it's a movement in the right direction. Putting into place replacement of police cars on a schedule. Buying new equipment for the fire departments, so that we have one of the highest ratings, best ratings in the state for insurance purposes. I mean, just it goes on and on and on. Bringing in Meridian Technology Center, recruiting them as well as other businesses to our community. What really good things that we all at this table and those that preceded us and the staff and administration have been a part of. It is something to be really, really proud of, and I'm humbled that I've been able to be in the center chair. Humbled that I've been able to be your mayor for 10 years, and I will still be passionate about the city that I love, the city that I've lived here for 28 years, but a city that I will continue to serve the city and the citizens, just not as mayor. But I'll be watching. I'll be watching. Again, thank you all for all of your support. You have taught me a lot. All of those people that I have talked with and sat with, as well as the citizens of this great community. It has been, like I say, a privilege and an honor, and I'm humbled. I'm humbled. With that, I conclude our city council, but don't go away.
Oh, got another one.
Because we open up our Public Works Authority meeting of April 22nd. The second item on that, this one won't go so long, folks. Second item is a consent agenda, item A, B, and C. I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda as listed and distributed.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Submit your votes, please.
All votes are in.
Let's see the votes. Unanimous approval then to approve the consent agenda. Item number 3, items removed from consent agenda. There were none. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, and I guess, Kaylee, you and I last city council.
Is this the final hammer?
Full city council. And I will be here to open up the next one, but the gavel will change. I conclude our Public Works Authority meeting. Thank you all for being